Hello and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Wild, Wise and Whole. So I am very excited to release this episode with the amazing Emma Mumford, who is an award-winning life coach, manifestation expert and incredible author. She has multiple books, with one releasing very soon, Aligned Abundance, and we're going to be talking a lot about that in this podcast episode. So this week I decided to release mine and Emma's episode because in a couple of days you will actually see me at one of her events in London, which I'm really excited for. I got invited to go down, and also I am the guest kind of like expert or like, I don't know, practitioner on her Glastonbury retreat. So this year I will be heading up to Emma's retreat to do some amazing somatic work, embodiment work with the women who are on that Lions Portal retreat. So it's going to be very magical. And honestly, I just think Emma is one of the most wonderful, gorgeous, like human beings I've ever connected with on the internet. And I cannot wait to meet her in person, and I cannot wait for all of you guys to hear our wonderful conversations. So enjoy. And the other thing that I just want to mention is remember that I am doing a 5-day completely free embodiment experience. So the link to join that is below, and I'm going to be giving out amazing prizes for people who turn up. I'm going to be guiding you through so many like beautiful somatic practices. I'm going to be teaching you a lot of like education on how being in a female body impacts your female nervous system, and how you can just start to become more wild, wise and whole in your everyday life. So we're going to be going through some amazing juicy topics over the 5 days, some beautiful somatic practices, just really creating a community of women who really want to understand the psycho-spiritual like female experience. So we're going to be talking about the good girl trap, shame, like pleasure, rage, how all of these topics and these things that we experience as women and these transitions and how they really impact our nervous system, so and impact our body, right? And how we can kind of use these themes to really move through our own lived experience to just really tap into like our feminine power. And like I just said, become wild, wise and whole. So if you do want to join that, you can join for free below. And yes, otherwise enjoy the episode, and I shall be back next week for another one. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Wild, Wise and Whole. Today I am joined by the wonderful Emma. Thank you for being here. Introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Lydia. I'm so excited to come on your podcast. You came on my podcast a couple of months ago. So, it's been amazing to chat with you again. But for those who don't know what I do, my name is Emma Mumford. I'm an award-winning life coach, 3 times best-selling manifestation author. I'm a law of attraction YouTuber, podcast host of the #1 spirituality podcast, Aligned Abundance. And I help people turn their dreams into reality using the law of attraction and manifestation.
Yeah, that's a powerful intro.
It just rolls off the tongue now.
You said it with such ease. I was like, as soon as you said awards women, I was like, here she is. Love that. That's great. I love that. I'm excited to talk about all things manifestation and law of attraction, because I know it's quite like a mainstream topic now, but I think your kind of journey with it has been amazing because you've been doing this for years. So I would love to know how you stumbled across like manifestation, law of attraction. Like, what was your journey with it?
Yeah, so I always take us back to 2012 because although it wasn't my spiritual awakening and although I had absolutely no idea what the law of attraction was at that time, it's such a pivotal part in the story and in the journey of how I got here. So back in 2012, I was, I think, 18, 19 at the time, and I was working in a bank as a banking manager. And obviously that was not my goal, not my aspirations or career at all. I just kind of stumbled into it because I was just kind of thinking, well, I don't really know what to do. I want to run a business, but I have to invent a product. So I'll just go get a full-time job and earn some money. So I didn't go to university or anything like that. And I very quickly found in that banking role, I started to develop anxiety and depression. And although those things had been kind of there before, it really heightened in that season of my life when I was at that job. And obviously, as we know, there's always other contributing factors to those experiences. So that was when I was in my first not so great relationship. And at the time, my boyfriend was in debt. And we had debt collectors knocking at the door, which was obviously very, very, anxiety driven for someone who was, experiencing anxiety. And, you're 18, 19, you don't know how to deal with these things. You're just like, whoa, this is serious. Like, what do I do with this? So, as the logical Virgo self, I was like, okay, well, I get preferential rates at the bank. So I'll just take out a loan. You can pay me, obviously, the debt back, and that'll get rid of the debt collectors. We can probably guess what happened after that, Lydia. He didn't pay a single penny back of that loan, which was for his debts, like obviously nothing to do with me. But because it was my legal responsibility at that time, it all fell on my shoulders, and the relationship very quickly broke down after that. And still to this day, he's never paid a penny of that £7,000 loan. So
Wow.
I was then in this position of, great, I have now had to move back to my parents' house. I've got no money. I'm 7 grand in debt. I can't even turn up to work because putting people in debt is triggering me each day with my own debt. So I was in the bathroom having panic attacks. So I was signed off work because I just couldn't even face work at that point. And it was just such a rock bottom in so many senses because I was feeling so rubbish within myself and I couldn't understand why I was experiencing anxiety and depression. But also having these huge life-changing moments as well happen so young was just, yeah, huge for me. So that's when I found couponing, which some people know me for. They know me as the coupon queen. So
Love
in that
that.
time of my life, I found extreme couponing and I was, I kind of had this determination of I'm going to turn this really shit situation into something where I can transform it. And, there was no inkling of a business or anything like that. This was for me just to get myself out of debt and to, try and help myself in this situation. So after about 6 months, my friends were like, you should really share this with people. Like, you've got this whole stockpile in your spare room. You've like cleared your debts. Like, people want to know how to do this, Emma. Like, share this with people. But obviously, as you do, you think, well, who am I to share that? Nobody's going to care what I have to say about this. There's Martin Lewis, there's all these other people. Like, who cares what Emma has to say? But after a lot of pestering, I did set up a Facebook group. And within 6 months, that Facebook group, I think, had like over 100,000 followers, and it just blew up. And couponing was such taboo here in the UK at the time as well. So no one really knew what it was, but everybody wanted to do it to obviously help themselves and get financially better. So I think it just found me at the right time and I was able to obviously help all those people. And then I went on to present on This Morning and did like these huge, incredible career things that were just, you couldn't even imagine, 6 months prior when you're losing your job, you're losing that relationship. Like it was just crazy how quickly my life turned around in that stage. So I ran that business for, I think it was about 6 years by the time I sold it. So quite a while. And that business, by the time I sold it, had over 500,000 followers and has helped so many people and still today helps so many people save money, coupon and, change their financial realities. But in 2016 is when I had my spiritual awakening. So this was again triggered by another really not great relationship. Relationships are the main trigger in my life of these
Yeah,
awakenings.
mine too.
Good old men. So yeah. So then I was an awakening of different sorts. I was obviously, having this incredible career, doing these amazing things. So on the outside, people probably thought, what's Emma got to be depressed about? She's on This Morning, she's earning this incredible, like running this incredible business. What has Emma got to be sad about? And obviously the reality was very different. I feel like that business saved me in so many ways and was just this thing that I could put positive energy into. It distracted me. It gave me
Yeah.
purpose to be able to help people, even when I was in that really dark space myself. But that spiritual awakening is when I found the law of attraction. And when I was really at rock bottom, I was having suicidal thoughts. I was just, I tried traditional therapy, I tried traditional antidepressants. Nothing was getting through, nothing was helping. And it really was that rock bottom for me of, what do you do with this? Where do you go from here when you want to give up, but you also don't know how to fix the problem? You also don't know what to do to feel better. Like I would look at people in my life and think, gosh, people clearly can be happy, but I don't know how to be happy. I don't know how to love myself. I don't know how to be happy. Like I never experienced those things because I'd had depression for so long, which little did I know was due to childhood trauma that I later found out only a few years ago. So that was when I came across the law of attraction. It found me, as it does for a lot of people. And it was just like couponing. It was almost like a remembering of, oh, of course, this is how life hack works. And of course, this is how I'm in this situation. Like, it wasn't like I was learning a new skill. It was like, yes, of course, that makes so much sense. And just like couponing, it was such a positive thing that I could put my energy and my attention into. And I just went all in and started talking about it on my channels. And, although my channels were all money saving, people were like, oh, yeah, I manifest, or oh, yeah, I've heard of that. So it was just like a really natural progression of couponing and money saving, but also talking about spirituality and manifestation as well. And then about a year into that, people were like, why don't you just talk about law of attraction more? And I think I'd never really considered that because I had this hugely successful business. But for me, that business had got so big, it needed a whole team of people. But
Oh,
also, I felt
wow.
like I'd outgrown it as well. Like, I still coupon. Like, don't get me wrong, Lydia. I love a coupon and a bargain, but I knew I could help people in all areas of their life, not just money. Yes, still make money, save money, whatever, but also help people feel good and feel happier and learn to manifest like I was. So I then sold the business in 2018, and I've been running this spiritual business that you see since 2017. And yeah, the rest is history, as they say. So it's nearly a decade on now, which is just crazy to think about. But the best thing that ever happened to me, and it's interesting how those journeys are so different, but really do, create the whole journey and the whole experience of how manifesting found me.
Oh my God, I love that. I had no idea you were like a coupon queen. Oh my God. That's, that is mega. Um, yeah, I love that. I kind of just like hearing you speak reminds me of in some ways like my own journey. I think you asked me like a similar question on your podcast, and I was like, wow, I could go like way back to when I was a lid fit in 2018 and left my probation job. And it's it's the synchronicities, isn't it? And it's like I always say this, I never intentionally intended, and it sounds the same with you. Like I never woke up one day and was like, right, I'm going to be a somatic psychotherapist. It's just like I landed here because the breadcrumbs kind of presented themselves and I followed, and one thing led into another, which led into another. And that's what I'm kind of hearing you say with your story, which is wild when it works out like that. But tell me what manifestation is. So like how we use it, what it is, and some of like the main like qualities around starting to bring that into your life.
And I feel like the law of attraction will find people when they need it. As I said in my
Mm.
own story, like it always finds you, and so many people can
Yeah.
relate to that story, which I think is so good because when we're in those moments, whether it's a rock bottom, whether it's a huge transition in our life, maybe it's just a feeling of, God, I just wish something could be different. I feel like that's where manifestation can really help people to show you that there's a different way of doing things, but also help you to cultivate the very things that you want to. So, law of attraction or manifestation at its essence is one of the seven energetic laws of the universe. So, it's the law that like attracts like. So, what we put out into the universe is what we receive back. A bit like a divine mirror is how I like to explain it. So, how you're showing up to the divine mirror of life is what is being reflected back to you. So, if you're, going around, having positive thoughts, putting out positive energy, feeling grateful and putting positive intentions out there, that's what you're going to experience more of. Whereas if you are always expecting the worst outcome and you're feeling negative or you're speaking negatively, then that's not, and I always counter this with what I'm about to say, but you can experience more of those experiences. Now, it's not to say that we manifest every single negative thought we have. This is where I don't agree with some of the old school teachings. We have between 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Not all of them manifest. We do not live in a world of instantaneous manifestation, thank God. So it is okay to have thoughts that aren't always positive. I think a lot of people live in fear because they see those old school teachings of, "Oh, I must not think negative things, I must not think bad thoughts." But we're human. Like, it's so common. And it's actually, what does manifest is your consistent, persistent vibration and energy, not those thoughts that just pop into your head or, what you're thinking about at that one time. So it's really important to remember that when you are manifesting. But I teach 5 steps when it comes to manifestation. There are 3 traditional steps, which are ask, believe, receive. And manifestation at its core is co creating your reality. So, whether it's wanting to manifest or create a job opportunity or a raise at work or a house, for example, a dream relationship, there's all these materialistic things that very much people are sold with the law of attraction of like, get the car, get the money, get the job. But you can also manifest emotions and healing too. And that's what I do want to share, that it's not just about the stuff that you can get, it's also about how you want to feel. And, in my case, when I was experiencing depression and at my lowest, the only thing I wanted was to be happy. Money was great, but it wasn't worth anything if I wasn't happy. So you can absolutely manifest emotional manifestations as well as those physical things in our physical reality. So there's no limits to what you can manifest. Whatever your heart desires is what you can co-create. You are the author of your life. And the way that you do that is through the 5 steps that I teach, which is ask, believe, trust, let go, receive. So when I first came across manifestation, you have the traditional steps of ask, believe, receive. And these are great, still needed, and they are in my process. But when I came to write my first book in 2018, I really kind of thought, well, hang on, there's this massive leap between believe and receive. Like, what the heck happens in the middle of that? And I feel like for me, it just wasn't comprehensive enough of the actual journey and what I was seeing, in the data from myself, from my community, from my friends, from the people around me. So I do believe that those extra steps of trust and let go are so important. And I feel like that is where a lot of the time people do fall off the bandwagon or they give up because they've done, they're like, I've done the work, I've set the intention, I've worked on my limiting beliefs and fears, and where is it? When there's actually those extra steps and processes that really do magnetize that abundance to you.
So what's the one after believe? Trust?
Yeah, so the first is ask. So setting your intention, asking, for your intention with clarity as well. So it's not just about, I want money, because you could find a tenner on your counter in a second and there's your money. You'd be like, well, hang on, I wanted £100, not £10. So you have to be specific because your level of specificity is what is reflected back to you. So it's not about controlling and it's not about saying it has to look like this. It's more of a case of this is how I envision it looking, but I am co-creating that with the universe. The second step is believe, which is then turning the focus internally to look at what resistance, blocks, limiting beliefs, fears, or trauma are stopping you from embodying that version of yourself. So what stands in between you and your desire? What is in between that? So that's where we go into the internal world and look at the energy and beliefs and identities that you were holding about that desire or yourself. The third step is then trust, which is one of the new steps, which is taking inspired and aligned action. So that is meeting the universe halfway, because this is a co-creation process. So you go 50% of the way and the universe meets you 50% of the way. It's not 90-10 and it's definitely not 10-90, it's 50-50 in that. And I always joke, you have your 10% manifestors and your 90% manifestors. Your 10%ers are the people who are like, I'm going to win the lottery. And you're like, great, how often do you play? And they're like, oh no, I don't buy a ticket, but I am going to win the lottery. Classic. And then you also have your 90%ers. I am definitely an ex one of those who are like, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do absolutely everything and it's in my control. And both can learn from either side. The 10%ers can learn so much from the 90%ers in terms of aligned action. And the 90%ers can learn from the 10%ers of how to relax and trust more in the universe that is going to come to them. So it's all about meeting in that middle. And that's through putting yourself in the field of opportunity and possibility, which is that 50% mark. And also taking aligned and inspired action to be in that field of opportunity. So it is action as well. It's not just intention and beliefs. There is action to the law of attraction and manifestation. And then step 4 is letting go. Probably arguably one of the most important steps in the process, but not enough people talk about it. All the old school teachings never mentioned letting go or surrendering or anything like that. And that is really the key piece here into what allows you to be a powerful manifester, is your ability to let go and surrender. And many think that letting go is giving up, and it's not at all. You still hold your manifestation as the end goal, but letting go and surrendering is becoming okay with both outcomes. So this or something better for the highest good of all. This is how I see it happening, but I'm open to all possibilities and the universe bringing bigger and better into my life if that is what is meant for me. So it's more of a case of handing it over to the universe, taking that step back to be met halfway by the universe at that point. Otherwise, you're just going to be that 90% manifester who's pushing and pushing and pushing, and you're not receiving. You're not relaxing into that feminine energy of receiving. Then step 5 is receive, which, yes, in turn is celebrating that your manifestation is here and, obviously expressing gratitude for your manifestation being here, but it is also still a step. So it is important to still get into the energy of receiving and allowing yourself to magnetize and receive abundance to you. So it is still a step, and it is about, thinking about how much do you allow yourself to receive. And I know as women, we are terrible at this. We are absolutely terrible. So the more that you can practice receiving, whether that's support, love, money, gifts, a compliment, whatever it is, the more that you get into that vortex and that energy of receiving, and you will experience more of those opportunities to receive abundance.
I love those steps, especially the letting go one, because I remember when I was had my spiritual awakening, I was very big in the Bob Proctor type stuff. I mean, I love Bob Proctor, but would listen to his books and Asking It's Given and all of that stuff. I just always remember those steps being I just felt a little bit almost oh, but okay, so I want it, but now what do I do? So I love the aligned action. I think definitely for me, if I think about how I probably unintentionally manifest now, I think a lot of it is probably taking aligned action, and then I met there. Whereas when I first started my manifestation journey, it'd be writing them down, and then I'd be okay, and I'm just gonna it's all gonna come to me. And then if it didn't come to me, I'd be well, what's going on? Why is it not working? And I think I then internalized a little bit more than I internalized, in the sense of it's got to be something to do with me, why this is not working, this manifestation is not coming to me. And do you see that with women in terms of how they, if something isn't coming to them, they can make it about themselves rather than just looking at the process that can unfold and what the steps are in order to get what you need?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's definitely a mixed response with it. I think a lot of the time, like you say, it's just not having the awareness over the steps or the process. And you're kind of told, just set an intention and that's it. Just believe it can happen. But what happens when you have limiting beliefs and fears? What happens when your ego and inner critic pipes up saying, well, you can't have that. Who are you to do that? So I think people then feel like there's something wrong with them, or they're well, it works for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. When actually, like you say, it is having awareness over the process and realizing there is more to that process, and that every single human being has those thoughts, has those negative, thoughts or limiting beliefs and fears. We all do, and we all have a different story to unpack and different experiences here on this earth. So, you can't say that everybody's manifestation journey would be different. You could have 100 people who want to manifest money, but every single person will have a different money story and different money beliefs and identities. So if you all told every single one of them to manifest £1,000, some of them have manifested instantly, some of them have manifested the same day, some of them have manifested in a week, and some of them never would manifest it. And that doesn't mean some people are just better at manifesting than others. It literally comes down to the belief and the energy and the identities that that person holds against money or whatever it is. So it's about recognizing that, for some people, manifesting money is as easy as breathing. For others, manifesting love is easy, whereas, the opposite might be true for the other person. So there are always going to be areas that feel a little bit more sticky or feel like a little bit more of a challenge for us, but that is our work to work through. And it's not that you're not good at manifesting or that there's something wrong with you. It's the fact of recognizing what that blockage is or that resistance, and being able to move through that so you can step up and embody that version of yourself who has the desire that you want.
Did you find doing the personal work helped you manifest differently?
Hugely. If there was like one thing of Emma, what is the secret sauce to that changed everything for you? Inner work and alignment work is the answer to that through regulating my nervous system and also the trauma inner work 100%. You know, I had absolutely no idea of what was underneath the surface. And I always say to people as well, as someone who had anxiety and depression, I was still manifesting with anxiety and depression. A lot of people worry that they can't manifest when they have anxiety, but we are always manifesting. That's the key thing to remember here. We are always manifesting, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. It's just the level of abundance is different. And we're always setting intentions from the place that we're in. So one thing I noticed as well is as I went along my journey and did the inner work and, you know, stepped into my power and healed so many of the things that had held me back for so long, I then started to want different things. And then I would look back at my vision board or I'd look back at my goals and think, actually, I don't think that aligns with me anymore. I actually feel like this aligns with me. And that's the beauty of the journey, that it will grow and evolve as you do.
I mean, when I done that webinar in your membership, you were like nodding along for when I was talking about your nervous system and being able to like manifest. And I think that's definitely something I was not aware of when I first started manifesting. But obviously, fast forward to now, I'm like, well, of course, your nervous system is going to be like, and your relationship with yourself and how connected you are to like your body is going to be playing a part in how much you can manifest, because it's how much you can hold, right? And I think this is what maybe people aren't aware of, but if your nervous system is like chronically dysregulated, or you're in a survival response, like you can't hold more than what's necessary. So if you're manifesting more, whether that's business, relationship, love, if this feels unsafe for you, you're not going to be able to hold it. And I got like so many messages from the women in the membership that were like, I just didn't ever even think of that. And I think that's like an empowering piece. Well, I certainly think it is. I'd love to know what you think, but I think it's empowering to know that we also have a part to play in what we manifest. Like what you said before, it's that 50-50. Where I think at first we can think, oh my God, like it's 90-10. I just like write it down on a piece of paper and it comes to me. But then actually when you flip that narrative and you go, no, I can step into owning what I desire and what I want, and I can also meet the universe in that. That feels so empowering and so different.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, because then I think there's that famous Tony Robbins saying, I'm going to absolutely paraphrase it here, but it's something like life is not happening to you, it's happening for you, or whatever
Yeah.
the saying is. And you know, when I heard that quote early on in my journey, I was like, you know, well, I've experienced really horrific things in my life through being in the Boxing Day tsunami, nearly dying, having extreme childhood trauma, like all these horrid things. Like, how is that happening for me? Like, what the hell? So, you know, there was a lot of, I guess, acceptance and realization around that, because I know that can actually be really triggering to people to hear of,
Yeah.
like, you know, when there's, I would say, not so great law of attraction teaching saying like, well, you manifested it, like you don't like an experience, you manifested it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. I believe that yes, we co-create our reality. Yes, we are attracting things to us. Yes, we have limiting beliefs and fears that do create our reality. But I also believe that there's more at play. There is 7 energetic laws of the universe, not just the one. And people pigeonhole the law of attraction as the be all and end all. But there's like the law of polarity, for example. There's other laws that do contribute to our existence. And I do also believe that there are soul contracts and other things that, you know, are at play that we decide upon when we come down here. And are we ever going to know the ins and outs of it? Probably not. That's our mission to, you know, come down and experience. But I do believe it's not just as black and white as you manifested it, because there's just so much more to that. And I also think it's just not very, I don't know what the word is, but not very nice to say to someone who's gone through something really traumatic, like, you've manifested that. I just think that there's more to life than just that at play. So I think we have to keep our minds open to how we are creating our reality. And if you don't like an experience that has happened to you, you can learn from that. And I think those lessons are such eye-openers for us of, okay, that relationship really sucked. Well, I can be really grateful because now I know what I do want. I now know what I don't want. So now I can turn that into what I do want and start manifesting that. So, our life and our experiences are naturally going to guide us and help us in getting clarity, clearer and clearer and clearer on what that dream life or dream relationship or dream money career looks like. So, we also have to experience life too. It's not just a case of you can just manifest everything and that's it. You are learning here in the school of, the Earth School as well, those lessons and experiences which help you to get clearer and clearer. But absolutely, it is about taking charge and almost empowering yourself to be like, well, if I don't like a situation, I can change that. And it changes by your action. It changes by intention, of course, but nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you're setting an intention of, I want things to be different, but you're doing exactly the same things, how can the universe meet you? Because you are in the exact same frequency and energy and place that you were before. You have to do something different to get a different result. And that might just be one simple step of, saying, actually, my boss at work keeps asking me to do this and that doesn't feel good. So actually, I'm going to say no to do that this time. And saying that no could then shift a whole ton of abundance in a completely different area of your life. So again, it's looking at what feels good and what doesn't, and then making a change and taking an action to align with the new reality. And then the universe can bring in those opportunities and bring in those things that you do want to manifest.
I love that. And I actually love now bringing manifestation in like such an embodied way, in the sense of like, just being like really intentional, like stepping into those feminine qualities of just being able to feel the support that's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And like, it's interesting because people always say to me, like, what's your goal? And I'm like, for the first time, I don't really have like set goals. I'm just kind of following the thread of life recently. And it's working out like, well, it's taking me in the right direction. And I just think there's something that's almost like a love letter of the universe of just guiding me and me being like, I know I'm heading in the right direction. And I know I'm like unintentionally manifesting. Without having like the big vision board and like the things. So I think it's so nice how like manifestation can show up in so many different ways, and how it used to be for me journaling a lot and the rituals and the vision boards, and that was really good for me. And now it's just like waking up every day and being like, that intentional action is going to get me to where I want to go, and kind of like surrendering to that, like that's fun and that's exciting. But like you said before, people, they struggle to surrender. You find that in like the women that you work with and the membership.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I probably attract those types of people because it's been my biggest lesson and my biggest hurdle to overcome with manifestation. Definitely, it does feel counterproductive or counterintuitive to be like, ask for your desire, believe, do the inner work, take aligned action, and then just let it go. It sounds strange. And people are like, what do you mean just let it go? I've worked so hard for this. I can't just let it go. But letting go is looking at your attachment. It's looking at your attachment, and needing nothing attracts everything. Your manifestation will always manifest when you need it the least. And what I mean by that is the version of yourself who has your desire. Let's use relationships, for example. If they had the dream relationship that they wanted, would they be checking their phone constantly? Would they be feeling down? Would they be feeling lonely? Would they be feeling all these different things that are completely normal to feel in that process? No, they wouldn't. They would be feeling happy. They'd be feeling content. They'd be feeling, whatever the emotions are, whatever emotions you want to connect to with that. So it's about embodying that here and now and becoming, literally through embodiment, as we've said, that version of ourselves who is that energetic match. So letting go is about a becoming. It is that embodiment stage. And I really include embodiment in the letting go step because it is a becoming. It's no longer you're taking action. It's no longer you're believing it. It's no longer you're setting an intention. You are becoming at that point. And when there is that becoming and that initiation to be the energetic vibration and be that version of yourself who is experiencing that reality, by the law of attraction, it has to manifest because you are that vibrational match for it. So that is coming into alignment. That is that embodiment of bringing your desire into the aura and energy field, and then in through the body through embodiment practices. So yeah, letting go is, you know, the most powerful piece we can work with. And I always find it's that dance. Like manifestation can be very traditionally divine masculine energy with like action and intention and going out there. But as you can see from those last two steps with letting go and receive, they are very divine feminine qualities as well. And I really feel like we have that dance between the two energies where we go up to the 50% mark and take the action. And then we dance with that receiving. We dance with that energy of trusting and embodiment and receiving. And I think that's why it's such a beautiful, yeah, beautiful dance between the both of them.
Love that. How might you help someone like thinking about that inner work? How would you help them? Because I'm curious. Because I know for me, I'd come at it like from an embodied kind of like nervous system, maybe trauma way. But for you, like, yeah, how do you help someone shift those? Because what I'm realizing from this conversation is a lot of it is our internal experience. And I'm like, well, of course, right? But like, I really feel like that's not what a lot of people realize. So yeah, how would you help someone?
Yeah, well, it depends what we're working with and what the belief is, but definitely identifying what the limiting beliefs and fears are at the root. So someone could come to you, as I'm sure you had experience in your sessions, Lydia, and they'll say, I'm procrastinating, or I just can't take action with this. I want to launch that business, but I just can't do it. Or I really want to manifest a relationship, but it's just not happening. So I always look at what the kind of surface level query is or question, and then start to work backwards of, okay, what is the belief or statement underneath that? So then someone might go into it and say, I'm procrastinating. And then they'll be feeling, well, I just don't know what the steps are. Or they'll have statements of like, I can't do it, or, you know, who am I to do that? And then you'll start to get those key beliefs and statements from that. So I'll always take someone in to identify what is at the root of that feeling? What is at the root of the problem that is, you know, being experienced in the physical? And then it honestly depends. If someone's in a one-to-one session with me, we'll do things like IEMT, which is integral eye movement therapy, to desensitize and work through that in a cognitive level. But really, I believe healing is all three: mind, body, and spirit. You can't just sit on a meditation pillow, meditating all day and release those blocks. You can't just do the cognitive work either, as I thought. You have to do the embodiment body piece as well to experience that healing on all three layers. So yes, there are those spiritual practices, meditations, cord cutting things that you can do, soul contract work that you can do, of course. And I recommend all of those things. There's also journaling prompts. There's also working with someone one-to-one. There's also identifying what those limiting beliefs are and working to release those identities or shift them into positive new habits or beliefs, whatever it is. But then there's the embodiment work, which I really feel is that final piece of, like you say, nervous system regulation, making your desires feel safe to your body, as you said, to allow them to be able to manifest, because you can hold them, you can sustain them, because we don't just want to manifest and then it goes. You know, we want to enjoy it, we want to sustain it in our life. And what makes our desires inevitable and sustainable is creating that space in the nervous system and showing the body that it is safe to release that. So I think depending on what it is and what that person's working through and how deep it goes as well, I tend to use a mixture of all those things most regularly.
Love that. And I'd love for you to tell me if you know them. Might be a bit of a curveball question in this intuitive chat, but the 7 laws of the universe. Can you
I
tell
do
me
know
more about those? I mean, I knew you would. That's how I was going to ask. But like, I just love to know more about them. I think I was listening to a book like last year actually, and I'm sure it was called 7 Laws. And it was really interesting actually, like all of these different kind of things that are at play. So could you tell us a little bit about what the other laws of the universe are?
Yeah, I will start off by saying I'm not an expert in all of them, so I probably will forget some. I'm not the person you go to for explaining all the seven laws of the universe, but I will explain how I integrate some of them into my work and the ones that I see come up the most. And then, yeah, I highly recommend everyone goes and looks them all up afterwards so you can get the accurate information.
Yeah.
But my good friend George Lizos actually wrote a book called Ancient Manifestation Secrets that actually shares all seven of the laws. He is an absolute expert in them. They're called the Hermetic Laws by the Kabbalion. So if anyone wants to research them and actually see what all seven are, then 100% go and do that. But the ones I see come up the most, so the law of vibration is what the law of attraction is. So it's not actually called the law of attraction, it's called the law of vibration. And that is the law of like attracts like, that everything is energy, everything is always moving, and vibrates at different levels. And obviously we manifest through vibrating at different levels. So that's the law of vibration. The law of cause and effect is the law that basically what we put out. So every action has a result, basically. So you could kind of describe it a bit like karma, where what we put out is what we get back. And, you know, if you take action towards your desire, you're going to get an effect from that. So some of them really tie in. I always feel like some of these just all sound like the law of attraction, or some of these we all just do work with day to day. And you wouldn't even realize it's not the law of attraction. The law of polarity is another really good one that I use a whole ton in my work. And that is that everything has an opposite. So yin, yang, light, dark, feminine, winter, feminine, masculine, winter, summer, all the polarities that we have. So the law of polarity is one that I tend to see in my work a lot, just because of, again, you know, what I was sharing about, it is okay to have a negative thought. It is okay to feel rubbish sometimes, because it's in those dark days that we learn our biggest lessons, and that we're able to identify what happiness and joy is when we know what sadness and grief is, for example. So it's basically the notion that every emotion is needed, every season is needed, everything teaches us something, and, you know, everything has an opposite. And we're able to embrace all of those in a, you know, a non-duality way. So love the law of polarity. The law, is it law and rhythm? No. Is it rhythm? What is it? The law of rhythm. I'm sure it's the law of rhythm. See, I'm not the expert. I love this one because this is more nature focused, and this one is more about that everything has a season, everything has a cycle, everything has its own timing. So for me, the law of rhythm is definitely something I work with a lot in my work, because I love using nature and manifestation and the cycles and seasons of life. So that's a really good one to work with as well. Then there's things like the law of gender, where you have divine feminine, divine masculine energy. So everything has a divine feminine and masculine energy and experience. So yeah, there's more. Obviously, there's more I'm forgetting here, but they're really fascinating to look into and take deeper to understand why we experience these things. And like I said, you know, sometimes it's not just as black and white as you manifested it, because there's 6 other energetic laws at play here. So, and you know, some people believe there's even more than 6. I've seen Diana Cooper say there's 33.
Wow.
I've seen so many different laws. So who knows how many there are, but they're really fascinating to look up and into and, you know, use in your journey.
Oh, that's super fascinating. Also, like, I love that law of rhythm. Like, I feel like that's, since I've been in that, like, with my own body, and also, like, just embracing nature, I feel like it's been easier for me to manifest. So, like, I wondered if there's something in, like, the other laws that, well, they all are kind of in a dance together, which is amazing. And another question that I have is it better or preferred to manifest on a new moon or a full moon? Because I used to do this back in the day. I would, like, on a full moon would be like letting go, and then on a new moon would be calling in, like, those you know, those manifestations or intentions for the month. So do you find that there's, like, a best time to manifest or, like, set our intentions?
And this is the $1,000,000 question, Lydia, literally, of like, when is the best time to set your intentions? The good news is you can set an intention any day of the week, any day of the year, and it will still be just as powerful. There isn't necessarily, you know, the universe isn't going to be like, well, Lydia, you didn't manifest on a new moon, so you can't have it. You know, it's not like that. We are always manifesting and creating, but we can definitely work with the energies of the new moon, things like new year, the turning points of the season, like spring equinox, summer solstice, autumn equinox. equinox and winter solstice to heighten that energy and to connect to that energy and have intention with that energy. So I'm definitely someone who's like, if you want to do these practices, do them. Like, they will absolutely help and absolutely amplify it. But you can manifest any day of the year as well, not just 11/11, not just Lionsgate, not just these special manifestation portal days. Any day of the year you can manifest. But yes, traditionally the new moon is the moon that we do set intentions with. It's all about creating that fertile soil when the moon is in its dark phase. So it's about planting seeds in that fertile new beginning soil. It's new beginnings, new energy, sowing the seeds. So yes, setting intentions on the new moon is super, super advised. And then the full moon, as you said so perfectly, is all about releasing and letting go. Some people love to set their intentions on a full moon. Again, I'm no moonologist, but I know a lot of the moonologists do say, no, new moon is for manifesting, full moon is for releasing. But at the end of the day, it's what works for you. If you really feel called to set intentions on a full moon, do it. You're still going to manifest it. And it might be that setting that intention is actually releasing something at the same time. So yes, I definitely myself use the new moon for setting intentions, and then the full moon to release, let go, and forgive, and express gratitude for what I've manifested or created that month.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I just wanted to ask that question because I just feel like old me would have loved to ask that question. So I was like, I wondered if people listening kind of, yes, love to do a ritual and love to do that kind of flow with the full moon, which is beautiful. And then tell me a bit about abundance, because you've got the new book out, which is very exciting. So tell us a bit about the book and tell us about like what your kind of journey was to writing that.
Yeah, so Aligned Abundance comes out on the 8th of April. It's my fourth manifestation book. And the subtitle is Release Expectations, Become Magnetic, and Manifest the Life of Your Dreams. And I love that all of my books kind of follow a little journey and a little story, and they're almost like the next step to one another. And you can, of course, do them in any order and obviously pick up whichever one you feel called to. All of them take you through the basics, even if you're someone who has absolutely no idea what manifestation is. So you do not have to do them in order, but they do kind of naturally follow on from each other, which is really cool. So Aligned Abundance is all about releasing your expectations. And this was a huge lesson for me around life, around my 30s, around my desires, really relaxing into that 50% manifester even more. So there's lots of topics in there around trust, letting go, like really deeply creating unwavering trust in yourself, in your body, and with the universe. There's a whole chapter on regulation and nervous system work, because again, that is the Aligned Abundance sweet spot. That is what was one of the most biggest lessons in Aligned Abundance for me, was learning how to regulate my nervous system, and the aligned abundance that was then created from that regulated space. Because the abundance that I manifest now is honestly mind-blowing, next level. And that's not that I wasn't a powerful manifester before. Of course I was, we all are. But it's on a whole new level now, where it is those aligned soul intentions, not necessarily those things that were tests or that turned out not to be my manifestation. So if you're someone who is frustrated that you're manifesting things and they're not working out, or you are experiencing control or resistance, or you don't know how to trust yourself or the universe, like, this book is powerful to trust your body, regulate your nervous system, look at your expectations, release control. There's lots of chapters on flowing. There's a whole chapter on manifesting with nature too, so the law of rhythm there once again. So it's a beautiful book of when you want to take that abundance to the next level and manifest through effortlessness. So it debunks a lot of the kind of myths and theories out there of like, you have to do so many practices to manifest your desire. I'm like, no, put the practices down. This is energy work. So this book is all energy work, but there are actions, tools, and prompts at the end of each chapter to embody the work that we're doing. So it's not just a book to tell you what to do, it's a book of like, we're doing the work too, which I always love to put in my books. So it's a really practical book that you will see shifts and results with, because the work is in there. And I'm so proud of it, and I'm so excited for it to come out, because it changed my life in huge, huge ways and created so much joy. And it was such a just happy, joyful book to write as well. After Hurt, Healing, Healed, I was like, that was heavy. Like, that was fun, but heavy. Whereas this one is like magnetic and fun and joyful. So, they all have very different energies. And yeah, it was such a pleasure to write this. And for me, my alignment journey, so believe it or not, there's actually no books out there on alignment in the manifestation journey. So
Oh,
this is
wow.
literally the first, which is incredible. And but the same thing happened with Hurt, Healing, Healed. There are no, well, at the time, there were no books out there on manifestation and limiting beliefs. So I was like, oh, well, I really needed that book. So I guess I'll write it for the people like me who needed it. And that's what happened with this book too. So it is all about alignment in the manifestation journey. It's looking at how to come into alignment with yourself and with your desires. And how I obviously went through that journey over the last 4 years, and regulated my nervous system and took that abundance to the next level where it is that soul aligned abundance that you want to create in your life. So yeah, I'm very, very excited.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, that sounds right up my street. I'll give that a read because I think I also resonate with like just calling in so much more since I've done the nervous system work. Like it's wild. Like even that, the invitation to be on your retreat is like I, that was never on my radar, and it's like it's just amazing. I think that when you regulate your nervous system and you do align yourself with what you want, it's like the possibilities are so endless. And I think it links back to what I said before about that then being so empowering on like a body-based level because you're showing up for yourself and you're also responsible for these and make like because doing that work, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to do the trauma work. It's hard to face your limit and beliefs. It's hard to regulate your nervous system. So I think when you get on the other side of that, it's then when you see the abundance start to come in, like, oh, that's fucking powerful, man. Like it's just such a feeling of gratitude and just like strength. And I think it's something that like everyone deserves to feel. And then when there's almost like this ease to receive it after you've done the deep work, it's like you really know that you believe it and you deserve it. Like when I had like a really good launch last year with one of my programs, and my client who's a sales coach, like sales mentor, was just like, yeah, like really celebrating, and as you do. And I was just like, well, of course, though, like, of course, like, in a sense of, I really feel like, yeah, it's my time to be able to bring these things into my life, and it feels really good, and I feel really grateful. And I just think like that's such a wonderful feeling, and I know you'll resonate from your experience of that as well. It's like the warmth and the connection that you get in your heart when you receive something is just like unmatched. Especially
Yeah.
when you can feel the support of the universe with you as well. It just really confirms that like, wow, there's something so much bigger outside of me.
Yeah. And it's almost like an exhale. Like I feel it's that exhale of like, it gets to be easy and effortless. And I think people listening, because I hear this a lot, so I really want to highlight this to your community as well. People will be listening to us and be like, well, that's really good for you guys to say, but I don't feel that way. So how
Yeah.
do I feel that way? And I got asked this question ironically in the book writing process on a podcast, and I was like, good question. I need to put this in the book too for people who will think this as well. And it is creating, like as we've said, nervous system work, but also creating that emotional stability in your vibration as well. So there are literally step by step tools and actions in the book to get to this place that we're talking about, because I think people can feel like, well, that's easy for you guys to say, but how do I feel like that? I don't. I feel so far away from that right now. And I think that's important to acknowledge of, it does get to be that easy. It really does. It's not just two people saying like, yeah, it's possible, and only a few people get to experience it. Everybody has the capacity and ability to experience what we're describing. And yes, it comes from nervous system work. Yes, it comes from the inner work, but it also comes from, dedicating and being intentional to yourself and devotional as well. And it is possible. It is absolutely possible when you do that work.
Mm, yeah, for sure. Because even like last year at the beginning of the year, it's like I went on that whole process. And then also to experience that trauma last year, it's like
Mhm.
that that stuff like has like that stuff happened, and I can sit here now and be like say all of this stuff that's amazing, but me last year could not resonate with any of that. Like me last year was just in like the thick of healing and trying to find a way out of what she was experiencing or a way through it, and hitting burnout and all of these different things. So it's like I'm glad that you kind of said that, because I think it's also important that we both say that, and we've also acknowledged how like the work that we've done and that we always never felt like this way. And also, there is privileges, like when we think about other people listening to this, like acknowledging our privileges to be able to be in this position now where we can talk about these things. So I think the conversation about manifestation and about this stuff is like, it's so much more than just like us two, right? Like it's so much bigger than that, because it's when we think about like our privileges or different cultures or backgrounds or living situations, like all of that comes into manifestation. And I think just to name that feels so different from like the books I've ever read or the spaces I've ever been in, where like none of that was mentioned, but actually it's so fundamentally important. But I still also feel like it's possible for those people to utilize what we're talking about and get to where it feels good for them and manifest in a way that feels like it's relevant for their lives and their experiences. I mean, do you also find that and feel that?
1,000,000%. Alignment is about what's in alignment for you, not
Yeah.
what's in alignment for me or Lydia or anybody else. It's what resonates with you. And that's why I say in all my work, in all my books, chuck away what doesn't resonate, work with what does. Try it. Does it feel good? Good. Do more of it. If it doesn't, try something different. Everybody's journey is so unique. Everybody's experiences and life experiences and, how they grew up, like you said, it is so different. So how can we expect like 8 billion people to have the same results? It's just not possible. So you have to honor where you are and where you're starting from in life and use those tools to meet you where you're at, to be able to create the reality and experiences that you want. And I've always said to people, like I get asked all of the time on podcasts, oh, so I take it you're manifesting £1,000,000, I take it you're manifesting a 7-figure business. I'm like, no, not in alignment, not what is a priority for me. Sure, if those things happen, cool, that'd be awesome. But it's not a priority for me and it's not what's in alignment with me. And I think there's so much noise around what you should be manifesting. And that is what blocks people, because it's not what you should be, it's what's in alignment with you. And that could be a huge goal, that could be a teeny tiny goal. And it doesn't matter. All that matters is that it feels good to you and it resonates with you and it feels in alignment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's so important. I saw this a lot in the coaching space, actually. Like, the way the 10K months are like glorified. And I remember for like a year, I was just like manifesting these 10K months. And then I remember someone said to me, like, why do you want that? And I was like, I don't actually know. And then I was like, oh my God, that's not my goal. Like, I've just kind of took that from the coaching space because it's being glorified and then made it something that I desire, but I didn't desire that. And that was like, God, that was such like an awakening moment, because I remember thinking I fell into this trap of manifesting things that aren't even mine, or desiring things that aren't even mine. So I think just sometimes that might seem so simple for people to be like, what do you mean? Really think if I want, of course I want that. But I think one of the biggest things when it comes to manifesting what you desire is genuinely sitting with it and being like, do I want this? And why do I want this? And even if the thing that you desire is like, I don't know, £10 to appear so you can get a takeaway for free. And it feels like, do the girl math, it feels like it's a free dinner for yourself. If you get that, celebrate that, because like I love that for you. The same way if you manifest a 7-figure business, if you want that, I also love that for you. So I'm glad that we kind of ended the episode just touching on that, because I think that's super important. And that's, again, not something many people talk about.
100%. And your why is so important, because manifestation is not just what you get out of this. Manifestation is also how your desires positively impact the collective too. And your why is what will guide you and be your guiding ship through those turbulent times when you are going to doubt. You are going to be like, where is it? Why isn't it here yet? And if you don't know your why, you will unground yourself. You will be all over the place and you'll be like, oh my gosh, it's not happening. Why is it not happening? I really need this. But when you ground back into your why, of I'm doing this to create financial freedom, I'm doing this for my kids, I'm doing this to be able to achieve this goal, you're able to ground back into gratitude, you're able to ground back into regulation, and you're able to ground back into why you're doing this, which creates that trust. So you have to know why you're manifesting something in order for that, because again, remember that divine mirror I said right at the beginning of this. If you show up to the divine mirror of life, not even knowing your why, is that going to reflect back to you? Are you going to manifest your desire? No. So Always know your why. And is it your goal or is it somebody else's? Is it in alignment? Does it feel good to you? And, as I said earlier, there will be times where and seasons where you'll look at your 2025 goals or even goals that have been on your vision board for the last 2, 3 years. And you might not resonate with them anymore. And that's okay. You can release them and set new intentions. So it's not always about, is it your goal from the get-go? Sometimes your goals can and your intentions can grow and evolve over time as well.
Yeah, I love that. That actually, just last thing I'm going to say, that makes me think one time I got a reading off a client of mine. This was going back to 2020. And so much of what she said in that reading come to fruition last year. And that, I remember listening to that and I thought, that is wild. 4 years later, nearly going on 5 years later. So there's literally no timeline from when the universe can present you. And I think a big piece of that is like, how much can you hold, right? Like I always say this to clients, and my mentor will always laugh and say this to me. How much can you hold? Because sometimes the thing that you manifest, you might not be able to hold it or receive it or ready to receive it. And when we think about our energy, our nervous system, where our life is, you might not be able to receive that until a couple of years down the line. But it's like if you desire that and it stays relevant for you, I truly believe it comes to you. So yeah, I love that. And last thing I just want to ask you is, what does it mean for you to be wild, wise, and whole?
Alignment is what that means to me. Definitely. Yeah, I feel like in your power, in that
Yeah,
alignment of knowing yourself, in alignment with yourself and your soul desires, and yeah, feeling that wholeness of you can manifest anything that you want to in your life. And that you are worthy, you are deserving, it is already yours, your desire wants you to. And stepping into that energy of whole, wise woman is, yeah, fully owning that and claiming that and knowing that you are the creator of your life.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you, and how can they work with you, and where can they buy the book?
Yeah, so Aligned Abundance is available pre-order now, but officially out on the 8th of April. You can order it from anywhere worldwide that sells books in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Get mixed up there. So many books. And yes, you can find me at I am Emma Mumford on pretty much every social channel. YouTube, Instagram is where I hang out the most. My podcast, Aligned Abundance, which Lydia's been on as well. And yes, you can find everything that I offer at emmamumford.co.uk.
Thank you, love. It's been a pleasure to have you, and I've loved the conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been epic.